Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments of analysing the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex. Today I'm going to focus on the Onager Dunecrawler, which is a very big staple within Ad Mech armies, especially in their heavy support choices. It fills in a couple of key roles, which is usually anti-vehicle and anti-flyer. There is other ways to play them as well, but that is the key ways that you'll see them being played. How this video will work is that I'm basically going to look over the sort of stats for an Onager Dunecrawler, the various weapons and special abilities it has, then I'll look at the various loadouts you can have in general, explain them in a bit more detail, and look at key Forgeworlds and stratagems that can be used. So with that, let's have a look at some of the stats. So for its movement, it has basically deterioration depending on damage. So when you do have 7 to 11 wounds, I believe it's movement 8. When in fact I think it's 6 to 11. Unfortunately, the guys who wrote this, they made a key mistake. It's in the FAQ. I think it's when it's 6 to 11 wounds left, it has a movement of 8. When it has 3 to 5 is a movement of 6, and 1 to 2 is a movement of 4. So it does actually begin quite quick, and then it does slowly begin to get a bit slower. It has a weapon skill 5. It's not a real problem because it doesn't have much attack capability. It has ballistic skill, which is it does go along with the wounds as well. So the wounds, depending if it's 6 to 11, is 3+. 3 to 5 is 4+, and then 1 or 2 is 5+. So it does deteriorate with wounds, but obviously at peak efficiency, a ballistic skill 3 is pretty good. It's got a strength of 6, again not really a problem because if you go in combat you've got bigger problems to worry about. Toughness 7, so not bad, average vehicle sort of toughness. Would be nice at 8, but can't always get away with 1. 11 wounds, again not bad, pretty good. Attacks, again, deteriorates with wounds. At 6 to 11 is 3 attacks, at 3 to 5 is D3 attacks, and at 1 to 2 is 1 attack. Not really that bored, to be quite frank. And leadership 8, no problem, and a 3+ save, which is pretty good. You know, I think it would be pushing too far to say 2+, but 3+ save is perfectly fine. So it has quite a few loadouts that it can go with. We're going to begin with, as it goes in the rulebook, the Cognus Heavy Stubber. So 36 inch range, heavy 3, strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. As has the Cognus rule, you may fire this weapon even if the firing model advanced, but you must subtract 2 from any hit rolls if you do so. So there's very little reason to advance a Dunecrawler, to be quite frank. If you can, maybe to get an objective or something, up to you. I haven't done it once, and even in 7th I don't think I did. So it's nice to have that rule, but you know, Cognus Heavy Stubbers are dirt cheap and it puts out a few extra shots. For the points, I really can't say no to them. Next up we have the Eradication Beamer, which is 36 inch range. Again, good, because that means you can pretty much hit your opponent's back line. Heavy D6, so random shots, but potential to get 6 shots off. Strength 8, -2 AP, and D3 damage. When attacking units within 12 inches, so when you're in quite scary range there, change this weapon's type to heavy D3. So you get less shots, but resolve the shots with AP of -4 and damage D6. So not a bad weapon, you've got a chance of getting loads of shots there if you roll high. Good strength, not bad AP, average, and D3 damage, random, but you know, if you get 6 shots it can be quite devastating in itself. Nice to have a little bit of a bonus to obviously your AP and damage and lower, sort of smaller range. I think it's more of a hindrance than anything because you'll have to remember and stuff like that, but interesting weapon to say the least, not bad damage, can do the job. Next up we have the Icarus Array. Now this is great weapon, to be honest. When attacking with this weapon you can fire all 3 of its profiles below. So it essentially has sort of, it's one weapon with 3 profiles and you can fire all of them, which is pretty cool. I'll say the special rule for all the weapons first. Add 1 to hit rolls made for this weapon against targets that have the fly rule. Subtract 1 from hit rolls against all other targets. So that's nice, definitely targeting flyers. We'll talk about that in a wee minute. So the first weapon on the Icarus Array, it's got the Daedalus and they are really cool named. The Deadless Missile Launcher, 48-inch range, heavy 1, strength 7, minus 3 AP, d6 damage. So it's got not bad, strength. Most flyers, if it is a vehicle flyer, will be toughness 7 usually. So unless it's like a raider, which is not. So you're going to be wounding things in 4s or 3s. It has quite a good AP to it. Minus 3 is really, really nice. And d6 damage means you can suddenly put out a whole bunch of damage. So although it's only heavy 1, pretty good. Next up, you have the Gatling Rocket Launcher. Again, 48-inch range, so great range. Heavy 5, loads of solid shots, no random, which is pretty good. Strength 6, again, really, really nice. Minus 2 AP and 1 damage. So again, quite nice. Probably nicer when you're going against sort of infantry-based flyers. I'm looking at Elder and Tau for that. I think they've got quite a few. Twin Icarus Autocannon is the last one, and it is a 48-inch range, heavy 4, strength 7, minus 1 AP and 2 damage. So again, a solid amount of shots, no random in that one. Great strength at 7, minus 1 AP, so not as damaging onto the armour, and 2 damage piece. It's quite nice, quite good. All that together in one weapon is overall pretty nice. It is, minus 1 when you're going to be targeting ground troops, but if you're going to play loads of flyers, this is a great, great weapon. Next up, we're coming to probably the big daddy of the guns when this unit's concerned, is the Neutron Laser. 48-inch range, so massive range, fantastic. Heavy D3, random shots, you can sometimes get 1, you can sometimes get 3. Strength 10, so you don't often see strength 10 on a ranged weapon that isn't armed on top of like a Lord of War or something, so it's really nice to have that. Minus 4 AP, so you're going to bash through even the most hardest of armours. I think 2+ to get through it, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, I think you get through that as well, so it's pretty crazy. And d6 damage. Its special rule is treat damage rolls of 1 and 2 made by this weapon as 3 instead. So each one that goes through, you're guaranteed to get a flat 3 damage if you wound and they don't save. Guaranteed. Really, really nice. That time when you get 3 shots, they all hit, all wound. Whew. Prepare for wounds to come off. And the last one is the Twin Heavy Phosphor Blaster. 36-inch range, so not bad. Heavy 6, so a solid amount of shots, no rolling for that one. So that gives you a bit more, how can I say, guarantee to actually get the damage. Strength 6, not bad. Going to struggle against heavier vehicles, but going to be good against troops. Minus 2 AP, so it's going to strip off a bit of armour. And only 1 damage, so it's clearly more designed for taking out the troops. Units attacked by this weapon do not gain the bonus of saving throws from being cover. So no cover for that one. Really handy, not a bad weapon. Yeah. So the Dunecrawler begins with an eradication beamer, but it can replace it for the Neutron Laser and a Cognis Heavy Stubber. You have to pay for that separately. Both on the Neutron Laser and the Cognis Heavy Stubber. Or a Twin Heavy Phosphor Blaster or an Icarus Ray. So you have to choose the main weapon and then you get Cognis Heavy Stubbers on top. You can take the another Cognis Heavy Stubber, so you can take one on all the weapon loadouts bar the Neutron Laser where you can get 2. And I'll highly recommend taking 2 because it's just more light infantry knocking away for a really cheap points. And this model may take either a broad spectrum data tether or smoke launchers. There is sort of reasons to take the broad spectrum data tether. Certainly there is stratagems that do help that quite significantly, and it does help your troops as well, and smoke launchers obviously keep it more survivable if getting shot at. So you've got to really gauge what weapons are best suited for it. Its special abilities are Canticles of the Messiah because of Ad Mech. If you don't have that on a unit within a detachment of Ad Mech, you lose Canticles of the Messiah, which is terrible. So it does have that. It has Emanatus Force Fields. Emanatus, sure. This model has a 5-up invul, so an additional save you've got there in case you get hit by something heavy. You do have a 5-up invul, which is really nice. You can reroll invul saves throws of 1 for any Onager Dunecrawler if it's within 6 inches of at least one other friendly Forgeworld Onager Dunecrawler. So if you have an Onager Dunecrawler nearby, you get to reroll those 1s on the invul save. Not the best, I would have preferred +1 to be honest, but having that reroll as an additional one is not bad, and it's 5 up info. Smoke launchers, once per game, model equipped with smoke launchers can use them instead of shooting any weapons in the shooting phase. Oh right, oh jeez, I forgot about that. Don't take smoke launchers then, because you want this to fire every second it's got. Until your next shooting phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls from ranged weapons that target this vehicle. I knew there was a reason why I didn't take smoke launchers on this vehicle, and I've just answered it, so yeah, I wouldn't take smoke launchers. Broad spectrum data tether Forgeworlds units within 3 inches of any friendly module equipped with broad spectrum data tether at the start of the morale phase, add 1 to our leadership for the duration of the phase. Not bad if you're surrounded by troops and you want to give them a wee bit more survivability when they are planning to, call it a day and flee. But there is actually stratagems, sort of one key one that does work with that pretty well. As the crawler rule, this model can advance D3 but ignores the -1 penalty to hit rolls for moving and firing a heavy weapon. Don't really care about the advance roll, might get you out of dodge a wee bit, or might move you onto an objective you lost. But it's mainly that -1 penalty when firing heavy weapons, because a lot of its weapons, in fact all of its weapons, are heavy, so not having that, being able to get that movement and maybe move away from threatening targets, threatening units, is very handy. And then of course explodes. If this model is reduced to 0 wounds, roll a d6 before removing the model from the battlefield, and on a 6 it explodes, and each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. So, standard sort of explosion for vehicles, sometimes it's only 1 mortal wound, i.e. the Dragoons and the Ballistaries, but in this case, because it's so big, it causes D3 to all units within 6 inches. So that is everything sort of in the codex, you can read that yourself, and I was just letting you know in the video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort of talk about mainly the loadouts and how I would personally play them, or have played them, and their sort of strengths and weaknesses, and how you're probably best targeting with them. So let's start with Big Daddy, the neutron laser. This is sort of one of my go-to sort of weapons for the Dunecrawler. So it's an impressive weapon for a tank this size. It's got great range, it's got great strength, it's got great armour penetration, and ability that means that damage done will be a minimum of 3. Its weakness is the random amount of shots, because you'll have a game where you have 2 rounds where you're firing this thing, and each time it's just going to put out 1 shot, which is not as impressive as you want it to be, but that is such the way when it comes to random amount of shots. Straight to 10 is good, as it means just about any suitable target for this weapon you'll be wounding on a 3+. It would be handy for ways in the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex to try and make that into a 2+. As far as I'm aware, there isn't. But still 3+, when you're wounding sort of mega heavy stuff, is really, really handy. I usually take about 2 of these at a time. Reason being is that, as I said, you'll get that one game where you're only putting out 1 shot a turn. By taking 2, you also, if you put them together, you get the benefit of Emanation Force Field, Emanatus Force Field. So you get that extra invul, and you put out that extra guarantee you're going to get more shots on your opponent's heaviest models. You just want to sort of look, get the neutron lasers, 2 of them, and light that model up. However, if your opponent is going to be running sort of infantry heavy stuff, so if he or she are going to be using hordes, then it may not be the weapon for you, as you'll struggle to cause wounds. Generally, a neutron laser, nothing's worse. You fire that and kill like 2 conscripts, though I don't think conscripts are so much a thing anymore. But you don't want to be using it to kill, orc boys or anything. You want to be targeting big things, and most people usually bring 1 or 2, and certainly a neutron laser can damage them. So if if a knight is coming along, or a monolith, and they make an appearance, and 2 Dunecrawlers with neutron lasers are going to cause a significant amount of damage. Worth noting is that you can get a 2nd heavy stubborn there, as I said, with the neutron laser. Always recommended, because it just means extra shots onto some of the guys who may be coming up the field as well. So generally, neutron laser, great weapon. I wish it wasn't random amount of shots. I wish there was ways to try and mitigate that, either through stratagems or HQs. But you gotta live with what you got. There'll be games, as I said, where you get very low amount of shots, and there'll be ones you get very high. And I just hope you get the higher shots all the time. Next up, we'll look at the Icarus array, which is, I haven't played this much in this edition, mainly because I haven't fought many forces with a lot of flyers. You know, I've not played Elder yet, and I've faced Tal, but I don't think I had loads of flyers in that one yet. But the more I look at this weapon, the more I realise it's actually much better than I give credit for. Sure, does really well on flyers, hitting them on a 2+, and ground units on a 4+, minus if you get deterioration due to damage. But this can easily be augmented with Protector, Doctrine Imperative, which I'll go into detail later. But that, essentially, if you put that with a broad spectrum data tether, which I recommend, you hit just about everything on a 2+, which is with a mighty 10 shots at fairly good damage, which is pretty awesome. 3 profiles which cause a fair bit of damage on vehicles and even put them on troops as well. Just having that solid 10 shots is really nice. The cost of this to make it a good all-rounder, however, is that you have to sink in a very good stratagem with a command point as well. And that stratagem may be better suited elsewhere in the army rather than the Dunecrawler, though it is a perfectly adequate choice for it. But against flyers, no questions, it's gonna do well, though I did have one game it didn't, so it should though, in theory it's a really good one against flyers. Against general troops, due to enough shots, yep, pretty nice. But against heavy vehicles, the neutron laser will always do the job better than just about anything else in the Ad Mech Codex. I think it takes sort of precedent, you know, to take a neutron laser over the Icarus array. Better to have 1 or 2 of them, unless you're playing against hordes or flyers, spammed out really lots. But there's not much in the Ad Mech Codex that really brings down another heavy vehicle than a neutron laser. So, but anything else than an Icarus array is a really good choice. So next up we're going to move on to weapons I actually haven't used at all. So, you know, being honest about that, I haven't tried them out and seen how they do. The next up is a twin heavy phosphor blaster. It has solid 6 shots, so no rolling for that, which is very handy because, you know, it can be a real pain when you just roll low amount of shots every time. It's an okay strength, it can threaten 3-up armor save models pretty effectively, especially those entrenched in cover because you don't get it. So like Devastators and Snipers who are trying to bring down your Tech Priest Dominus, you just light them up. However, for points, Castellan robots have almost the same weapon, they're a bit less ballistic skill and have the potential to put out much more shots than these guys, and they don't get worse as they get wounded, where obviously the ballistic skill of Dunecrawler does. So overall not the strongest option. I would say if you are planning to take it, just take Stellan robots with their, you know, heavy phosphor blasters and light up your opponent's forces there. But still, it's if it's the gun I think it is, it's a pretty cool looking gun, or it's the Eradication Beamer. No, that's a really cool gun. Speaking of the Eradication Beamer, we'll go into that next. I'd like to call this sort of the little brother of the neutron laser. It's still a really big gun and looks pretty cool. Good range, good strength, AP is okay, and medium damage. The advantage is having D6 shots rather than D3, which means you have a good chance of doing more shots, but if targeting heavy vehicles, you will have a harder time wounding them, and they will get an armor save most of the time and probably do less damage, where, yeah, you know, where the neutron laser does pretty much guarantee of 3, even if you roll a 1, this can do up to a maximum of 3. Minus the fact in the circumstances where you go into 12-inch range, in which case the AP and the damage jump up, but the number of shots go down. But the strength does not change, and it's a guarantee of, I think, 3 damage? No, the neutron laser guarantee of 3 damage. No, you've got a chance of doing D6. If you're within 12 inches though with this gun, which I highly don't recommend, you know, Dunecrawlers, again within 12 inches of any enemy force, it's probably a dread coming at you, so you know you can fire at it and hopefully do a bit of damage. To me, the neutron laser will always get the job done better. This Dunecrawler has no real sort of melee capabilities, so if you're planning to get within 12 inches to do that extra one, neutron laser would be doing it better already for a bit more points. Well, quite a wee bit more points, but generally it's going to take out stuff a lot better. It's a cool weapon though, it looks amazing, but Generally, if you're targeting, you know, vehicles and stuff, the neutron laser is my preferred loadout. So let's talk about the Forgeworld Dogma recommendations I'd go with this. Now these obviously get quite samey sometimes. The Mars Forgeworld is probably recommended here for the ability to get canticles aiming, you know, 2 canticles at a time, aiming for either Shroud Slam, because this unit absolutely loves it, because they don't ever plan to get up close to anything, or at least they shouldn't. And Benediction of the Omsai to allow you to reroll once to hit, in case your Warlord is not nearby, though you'll probably have Call or Check Push nearby, possibly boosted by the Mars Warlord trait as well. If you've taken this, you know, overall, if you've got them nearby, then you don't need Benediction of the Omsai, you need Shroud Slam. Almost all the other canticles are wasted on this, so having both is very useful, you know, Shroud Slam and Benediction, and even having one is important. You know, nothing's worse than messing with a neutron laser. There are worse things in life than messing with a neutron laser, but generally, you know, missing, you get a good amount of shots and then all you do is roll like 3 1s and you go, ha! Get to re-roll them, you know, so it's important to have those re-rolls to guarantee that the shots connect. But Shroud Slam does get the survivability as well, because a neutron laser is a deadly weapon. Your opponent will try and bring it down. Strategems 8 is here as well for the minus to your opponent's shooting, which is always very helpful, especially considering how you never have it generally, unless you take the Eradication Beamer and decide you want to get up in your opponent's face. You generally just try and avoid being within that 12 inches, so they're always going to be -1 to hit, which will be a real pain for your opponent. And even then, it's, you know, because it attracts a lot of shots as well. So that's the 2 I would recommend more than anything, because you're not going to go for combat-based dogmas or anything. They're not, you know, Dunecrawler's not going to benefit from it. We're going to go into stratagems next. Now, I already mentioned Protector Doctrine Imperative is pretty good for the Dunecrawler, adding a potential 2 to hit rolls with the broad spectrum data tether. So it's like 1 command point, I think. So even if your opponent is doing, you know, the Strategems 8 sort of idea, I think it's Alpha Legion for Chaos, it's Raven Guard for Space Marines, where there's -1 to hit, you get +2 to your hit, means that you're still hitting on 2s when you're at peak efficiency, which is really nice, and your opponent will be really angry that you did that. But it also works as well if you take the Icarus Array, use that command point, and suddenly even your Icarus Array is going to be hitting ground troops on a 2 as well, unless they've got the -1 to hit as well. So it's a really solid choice for that. Whether there's maybe better units that do benefit from Protector Doctrine Imperative, because there is units that can, you know, use it more efficiently. I think Vanguards with lots of plasma is kind of handy as well. But Dunecrawler is a perfect, adequate use for this as well, because nothing's worse than when you miss with a neutron laser. Tech Adept, though used by Adeptus Mechanicus characters, it sort of affects other models, and the Dunecrawlers, it benefits them greatly from recovering wounds. Having a Dunecrawler increases survivability and possibly making it back to a higher efficiency and shooting again, you know, this is great. This has proved itself, for me personally, recovering wounds and making itself more efficient time and time again. It's proved really, really efficient. Add in a Warlord trait, I can't remember which one it is, I think it's Necromechanic, and an Arcanum Mechanicum item, which is, I've talked about this, is Autocatus Arcan Lands. You know, it makes it easier to recover wounds. You know, you can recover up to 8 wounds on your Dunecrawler when you use Tech Adept at a time if you roll really well, which will annoy your opponent to no end. Machine Spirit Resurgence allows unit to act at peak efficiency even if it's down to its last wound. An opponent may write off a Dunecrawler and as it's close to death and think, it's 5s to hit, I can let it go for a turn and I'll finish it off later. As it's close to death and you know, it's not going to be reliable to hit, but then suddenly you go for 1 command point, I'm back up to, you know, peak efficiency, I'm going to fire Neutron Laser, Icarus Array, I'm going to hit loads, and it's going to be great. So a really good stratagem to keep there if you need that final sort of Neutron Laser shot straight at your opponent. And Benevolence of the Omsai is an okay stratagem in general for the Dunecrawler, adding a layer of survivability to your unit, essentially feel no pain, as we remember it, for 1 command point. Dunecrawlers are probably a good unit to have an extra layer of survivability. I mean, they've got a 5-up inbuilt and potential to reroll the ones on that, as you know, knowing your opponent, they'll probably try and damage it to make it least efficient. Having that 5 up sort of feel no pain is really, really handy. Yeah, so I highly recommend that one as well. Yeah, so that's it for the Dunecrawler. My thoughts on it, to sort of recap it especially, is that neutron lasers are solid. It covers what your army needs in terms of anti-heavy vehicle weaponry, and it can just punch holes in those heavy vehicles quite effectively. I usually take 2, and the Icarus array is also very solid depending on what armies you're playing against, and it does a solid 10 shots, which is pretty good in itself. Am I being unfair to the Eradication Beamer? Am I being unfair to the 20 Heavy Phosphor Blaster? Let me know. I just think that, you know, there's other things in the Codex that do those roles better. The Neutron Laser is super solid, and the Icarus Ray. You've got 2 solid choices before you look at the other ones. Why would you? Let me and other viewers know what your thoughts are, just in general, the Dunecrawler, and have you had any epic moments where they have proved themselves time and time again? Let me know, because I always like reading your stories and that as well. So thanks again for watching. Please check us out on social media. We're putting up some projects we're working on at the moment, some real cool ones. I promise, you know, by the time this video is going up, we should hopefully have some new potential stuff coming out in the new year. And we also make sure you please comment, share, like and subscribe. So we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.